Hey there, Melanie. Hold on one second. Looks like my camera is missing. There we go. How's it going? As per usual, things started off rough technically here, but once we get into this hook stuff, I think we'll be all right. All right, so I've been working on a custom hooks library for FaunaDB. So first, let me just start up my development environment real quick, and I can actually shut down Docker here because I don't need that. So yarn run start. So we're gonna boot up our watcher for our build tool. We're using rollup, and then we're gonna go into. Hold on one second. New tab. This is going to be the example create React app that lives within the repo. So example, since it's a create React app, we can run yarn run start. I'm doing well. How about yourself? And there we go. I'm booting this up. Can close Twitter. Gonna blow this up a bit for y'all. All right, I'll blow this up as well. So last time we were working on this use delete hook. Let me just look at this real quick. Add unit test. I could have sworn I did that, but maybe not. Let's see. So I have a test file, yeah, okay, but I haven't actually tested anything. How do I want to do this? All right, so we've added a new hook. That's essentially, it's called use delete. It allows users to delete functions, collections, let's say, yeah, collections, databases, documents, and indexes, but not functions. Okay, we built out this form just to display here in our demo app. We're just building out a UI to quickly demonstrate how all this works. So use delete. Let me see here. Yeah, use delete. All right, so now we just need to open one of our other test files. It's probably going to be pretty similar. Just going to copy and paste it. Cancel. Okay, so we can actually get rid of these tests in here. Just wanted the general structure of the file. This stuff gets commented out. So this is going to be for a use delete. We want to double check that it successfully deletes. And then use delete. One of our functions here, when we're trying to request a document, we actually need an extra argument, which is the ref ID of the document inside of the collection with this name. Okay, so we want to test that if we're trying to retrieve a document without a ref ID, that we want to throw an error. It should not work. Fails. Okay. These are going to be async functions. Let me see what I did here before. For use get, excuse me, let me open my water. Hey, what's up, Will? How's it going? Welcome to the stream. Just working on some custom hooks here for FaunaDB. Been working on this for a few weeks now. So getting close. Last stream we went through and created a use delete hook that allows you to delete items from your database. So I'm just going through and just adding a little test coverage before we move on to the next hook. Okay, so in use get, did I do non-document? Okay, yeah. So what I did for use get, which also handles multiple schema types, I did successfully deletes non-document type because that's the one that's different than the others. It requires an extra argument. Fails to retrieve without the ref ID. So that's if we don't send the extra argument. And then we would also want to know that it successfully retrieves document. And again, that's just because it has the extra argument type, so the query is slightly different. Okay, so again, I'm going to split this up. According to my screen, it looks like it's readable on stream, so if you're having a problem with it, let me know. But essentially, a lot of this is going to be sort of copy and paste here. And I should start like mock. Right now, my tests actually interact with my production database, which is like not the best practice. So at some point I should probably work on like how I'm mocking these things. But right now I'm just trying to build a proof of concept. So once I get this working, I'll worry about that part. Hey, this is Mahmood. Welcome. Yeah, thanks for joining. Appreciate it. Hey, thanks for the follow. I appreciate that. Happy Wednesday to you. Working on some custom hooks here. So the way this render hook works is that essentially, let's just copy and paste this. And I'll explain what's going on a little bit. So I'm going to skip these two because we don't care about them right now. So I think it's exit. So the first thing we need to do for all of the tests is, and we can do this in a before all, I think, but I tried doing that and it didn't work the first time, so I haven't tried it again because I'm lazy. But essentially, we're using one of my hooks, which is use fauna client, which is one of the ones I've built already. Essentially, render hook is from this testing library that allows us to easily test hooks. So it's just going to return to us the result of this. And we're passing in just a key, and then we have a result, and we're just aliasing it to database. So the first thing we're doing is we're just instantiating this client so that we can make the request and then make assertions about how that request goes. And the client here, we're just making an assertion like, hey, we expect that when we instantiate this thing, it should be a client, which is a type that's actually coming directly from the Fauna driver, which is what's underlying all of this logic and functionality here. So, okay, let's just do this real quick. Okay, so once we do that, then we need to actually render the hook itself. So I'll copy this. And so instead of render use get, it's actually use delete. It's going to be use delete. And just like the other hooks we've built, it takes the client as an argument. And that's how we know which database we're interacting with. And that also handles the authentication. Okay, so we're rendering the hook. Then it's going to return to us the three things we return out of this hook here. You can see it actually in the TypeScript function definition at the top. We return an array with a function as the first arg, a string as the last arg, and the middle one can be either null or a data item. So this is actually going to be, let's call this delete so it's properly named. And then we have some assertions that we've been making on all of these things, which is, so basically here, we're taking these items that we're destructuring off the array that comes back from this hook. And we're just making some statements about what we expect. And we need to import this as well. And so what we're expecting here is that the function is a function. Delete data should be null to start. And you can actually tell that here. It's null or a data item. And that's because the initial state we set is null. And then the status should not be loaded. And that's also in the local state in the hook. And so once we call this function, these things will start to change, or the value of data and status will start to change, and then we can make assertions about those things too. Okay, so I need to uncomment it to this. So we're going to do essentially copy and paste again. So act is a function that you use to wrap any code rendering and triggering updates to your components into act calls. And so here we're actually calling get delete function. Or delete function, I'm sorry. We'll have to define these arguments in a second. Wait for next update is basically, it's an asynchronous function that we're just saying, hey, we want to wait for this hook, for the state of this hook, which we have here. It's the client. Well, it's the result, which we have listed as DB, but we're specifically interested in this. And then when the values change, we then want to make new assertions. So now our delete data should be a return object we get that represents the object in the database we deleted. And then here is the status, which is the third item in the array that comes back. And this should be delete status. And so now it should be loading now that we've executed this function here. And then we're going to wait again for the next update. And now the delete status should become loaded. And we should actually have data. And the data is going to be an object. Okay. And so delete function. The hard thing here is, like I said, because I'm using real data, I could create and then delete a document in the same database, but again, I'm just doing this to prove out that it passes the tests, and then I'm going to move on to another hook. We're in here, and so we want to delete, and this is a so we want to delete like a collection. So let's do unit test. Okay. So this only takes one argument, and that'll be unit test, or is it UI test? Yeah, UI test. And maybe what we do is in the before all, we create all of these items, because the deletion, otherwise we're going to have to change these values every time. Hey, what's up, James Quick? How you doing, my friend? Just working on some custom hooks right now. So if we run this, I would expect this to pass. Let's open our package.json. I'm going to run just this file. Test. Yep. We just want to do, is it source test? Yeah. Source test. Use delete.test.js. Let's open a new terminal tab here. Actually do that again. Yeah. Yeah, that's because it's TS. Let's see. Let's just run them all. I don't know why I'm trying to get fancy here. Okay, so it passed. And these errors I'm getting are about, it's about the act. It's saying you should call await in front of these act calls that I have. But every time I do that, it causes all of the tests to break. So since they're passing, I'm just going to continue going with that. Like I said, this is a proof of concept right now. I will like formalize some of this stuff in the future. And so, like I said, since we're running this against the production database, use get all, use delete, name undefined. Yep. Okay. So this oh yeah, of course. That would make sense. So this, I was wrong. This does not take it. Hey, thank you for the follow, Dat Web Design. What I did wrong here is that if we look at this, it actually takes, and it's not the hook itself, it's this function that it gets returned as part of the array. It's a use callback, so it's a memoize function, and it takes a schema and then the name. So the schema here is we're trying to delete a collection, and the name is UI test. So now when we run this should actually delete something in the database. But also the fact that it passed means that these tests are pretty bad because it passed. So interesting. Oh, it still passed. Cool. Let's see. Did that actually work? Did that create a document? That doesn't make sense. So instantiate, grab the client, render the hook, get the function, the data, and the status, make assertions, delete a collection. And I believe, yeah, it's looking for a lowercase string, collection, UI test, wait for next update. Let's console.log the response here. Delete data. Instance already exists. See, it's adding documents. Use delete, use delete, use the client, use delete. Strange. Cannot log after tests are done. Let's see. It keeps telling me I need to await this, but it always blows everything up. It only Yeah, this is what happens. Expected loading, but it's not loaded. So it looks like the function, this function is getting the right arguments. We're deleting a collection, so this should work. Let's see. Okay. Start from the top, since there are so many. You called act async without a wait. Okay. So that's all my other test files. That's why I want to just run these React scripts. Can I give this an argument? Oh, I can do test watch, I think. Test watch. Yeah, I want to run filter by file name, use delete. There we go. Okay, let's see what happens if we just take this assertion out. And if I want to see if it blows up because of this await. Invalid ref. Okay, so that one deleted it. But I'm still on the route. Interesting. Okay, let's try this. Let's try Twitch collection. Okay. Async callback was not invoked. Does this need a done? I don't know if you can do that here. No overloads. Okay, nope. Let's see, did this get deleted? Nope. So I have to do it here. Done. Let's try that. Here we go with the jest async stuff as usual. But like I said, if I take out this await that it's telling me that should be there, I don't need the done. And I don't need this. And this I think will work. Nope. Interesting. So there's no async in here. So this, I guess, could just be a regular function. Because I'm only awaiting within this async anonymous function being passed to act. Let's see. It passed. Okay. So then this should be gone now. Collections. Yeah, it is. Okay. All right. I don't know why this needs to be why it's failing on this, because it does set the status, set the res, set the status. Do I have to await this res or make this async, await the res? so that this happens, then this happens. I don't know. Let's worry about that later, because I want to get to the next hook more than I want to write tests. Before all. So I think I should instantiate this thing here. And then I think I can just comment this out. And here, since I'm deleting something, I should probably also just create a database first, or in this case, a collection first. Import, use, create. Can't do that because I haven't written that hook yet, or have I? Oh, I have. Look at that. Use create from use create. So if we open the use create test here, let's create test this one. Let's do this. So const create function, create data, create status. I don't think we need those second two, but just get in the habit. Use create client. So this is gonna, here we're gonna want to call this create function, and we're gonna want to create a collection. And then this, let's just do what we've done here. We can just call it my test collection, I guess. And then we'll just delete that one. Like, so every time we run the test, we'll create this collection, and then this delete test, we'll just delete it. But then we don't have to recreating it over and over. Keep recreating it. Use create. Let's see. Use create. Yeah, it returns a promise. So what we want to do is make this before all asynchronous. And then we want to await. I don't think we need these. Let's see if this works. Nope. Oh, what? Okay. Client is not defined. Yeah, so the client, that's scoped here. I guess, do we have to do... Do we have to do something like this? No, because that's out of scope. Any type. TypeScript. Leave me alone. Sometimes I just want to be left alone, TypeScript. Just null. Fauna. I mean, it doesn't have a value, so shouldn't null be good enough for you, my friend? Implicitly has any... Yeah, okay. As fauna db.client. No? Undefined. Nothing. Just let it be nothing. as any. Yeah, okay. Get out of here, TypeScript. Use state. Yeah, I have to do this, of course. That makes sense. So I need to actually render the hook because you can only call a hook in a function component. So what I really need to do is this. Const create function. So this we actually don't need anymore. Create function equals result 0. And I wonder, I think it's result dot current. Let me see. Result. Yeah, result dot current. Okay. So in order to call this create function, we need to render the hook using this render hook. And then now we have the function by destructuring result and grabbing the first item in the array assigned to current. And then we're going to create a collection, my test collection. And then down here, we should delete it. Okay, this time it passed. So it passed, but there's an error? Is it because this should be await async? Yeah, it doesn't time out. Done. Hey, what's up, Swiss? Sorry, I'm using Twitch Studio. I've been using it for the past couple of streams. And the one thing I can't seem to do that I did in Streamlabs I loved, I could zoom in on the chat because I'm getting older here, so need to blow that font up. All right, let's see. If this doesn't work, I'm just going to say call it a win because we did get a pass even though we're seeing an error. How that works, who knows? Okay, so yeah, that every time, like I said, adding the await to the act call, even though it says to do that. Oh yeah, and then this needs to be used create, of course. So maybe I was not wrong. Maybe I just had something set up incorrectly. Yeah, okay. Use create. Let's try done again, since now I'm calling the right function. Cool. You called act async without a wait, but yes. You're correct. I did. You're correct, unit test. I did not do that. Okay. Yep. This joker here. Okay, that's good enough for me. Here successfully deletes documents. It's essentially the same test. It's just requiring an extra arg. So we actually want to do this one only. It.only. It's not going to be async. That seems to cause us some problems here. Yeah, so I'm building a library here to interact with Fauna database. Or FaunaDB, which is where I work. I'm just doing this as a proof of concept because when I was learning how to use our query language, at first it wasn't like 100% clear to me, but I also come from a front end perspective. I don't really have a background in like database interaction type stuff. So I thought to myself, well, if I was building a React app, Gatsby site, something with Next, like what would I reach for? And I would probably reach for like just some hooks that could do it for me. I wouldn't really want to handle setting up like a lot of the infrastructure and all that. Okay. So, yep. Now we only need to do this one. Let's just copy this exact test here because we only need to make a couple changes. And essentially, render hook, delete client, delete function, blah, 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 blah. And we could probably actually move that whole thing up as well into the before. Yes, I think we should. So this, and we can move its assertions up as well because we don't need to do that every single time. Delete result. Actually, I don't think I can do that because I need. Okay. Delete function. So delete. This is going to be document. And I will do my test collection as well. This one we can't fake as easily because the ref ID is assigned when you create the document. So maybe we can do something clever up here where we take the return of our creation. Let's see what we can do. So this is going to be ref ID, and we'll define that later. Okay. So this time we're going to call create function again. This time we're going to do a document. Let me look at the hook. I like that I wrote these hooks, but sometimes I don't remember how they work. Yeah, we do have GraphQL support, and you can get to a certain point with that. But my current understanding is that like you reach a point where you might need to invest in learning FQL. Like I think that's really far down the road, but to get up and running, you can use GraphQL. There's like a built-in playground. But I also I'm still learning GraphQL myself, so as I've been learning our query language, I'm basically using our current JavaScript driver and wrapping it in hooks so that it's more approachable for someone who's done basically mostly front-end things. Okay, so this one, create, takes a schema, a list of params, and a scope. List of params, document, create params. So yeah, we'll just give it a name. We don't need the other stuff. So my test document. Okay. And then we need to give it a scope, which I believe is the name of the... Yeah, it's the name of the collection. So in this case, it would be my test collection. And so this should return to us. Let's see. Create status is the second item in the array, and I'm going to log that out. Yeah, ref ID is not defined. That's definitely true. Oh yeah, I'm not looking for the status. I'm looking actually for the. Yeah, I'm looking for the data, which is I think the second one. Yeah, that's the second one. So give me number 1. That's the create data. The status is the last one. $26. Maybe this is not what I want to do. Res. Let's see what this looks like. Yeah, I know. This is an object. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Ugh. Okay. Let's skip this one for now, because we know this one doesn't require this creation stuff. Basically, we just throw an error. So, use create tests, basically the same thing here. We're going to render function. So, we don't need this. It's actually going to be use delete. Delete data function and status. Where did I go? Yes. Delete function. So if we don't have a scope, null, this should cause an error. Fails to retrieve, and I think that one successfully creates. Where's the failure? Oh, okay. Let's see. Yeah, this one. Basically just this. This one's going to be short. So you basically just, you call it without the proper arguments, it's going to fail. Oh, too many A's. 4598. Okay, now the only one we need to get to pass is this one. I'm just going to add a to-do because I want to move on here. To-do. To finish the second test. And we'll just leave this like ignored for right now, so it'll always be skipped. So get status. Get status. Get diff. Okay. Chore add tests. Use delete. Okay, we'll push this up to GitHub. Okay, let's see. So now this should be up to date. So if we look through this, we're no longer ignoring this folder. I've updated the README. We've added a form, and this form essentially is just UI for us to test out these functions. Here's our tests. Here's the export out of our index. Here's the tests. Here's the actual hook itself. The hooks themselves are actually like one of the smaller parts here. This is a file that got deleted because these used to be schema specific. Now they're general. So let's go ahead and merge this because, hey, all my checks have passed. My unit test passed, so let's merge it. Cool. So now we can get checkout master, get pull origin master. We could also get branch delete, add use delete. Already did this, but doing it again. Okay, let's look at issues. Ooh, actually our pull request here, we already closed it, so it's not going to do it for us automatically, but one, should have taken this tag off, and two, we should have used the closes number. Where are the issues? Number 16, 15. 13? Yeah, there we go. So you can use these hot or like these GitHub keywords to manage your issues. So it didn't do it, but if I had done that before I merged the PR, the event would have triggered and this would have gotten closed automatically. Yeah, now it's mentioned, but we can just close it. cool. All right. Commit linting. I don't want to do that. Oh, I think I mean linting my code, not like linting the commits. Let me leave a note for myself. At one point at work, we were linting our commits, and I somehow like offended it all the time. So I spent more time fighting that than anything. So I don't want to be doing that. Okay, I guess we can. Let's see. Let's look at our README. So the only hook left that's still, excuse me, schema specific is this use update document. So what we can do is let's work on that. And then once we do that, then everything will be super. We'll have get all, get, create, delete, and update. So all the CRUD operations. And then we can even do stuff like delete all. I think there's an update all. Have to double check that. Okay, get, create, branch, feature, add, use, update. Okay, code. So the first thing we'll do is close everything. So let's open our README because this is the first thing we should change. We're going to get rid of this, use update document. And we're going to swap it out for use update. 1 second. Let me help my dog Banjo out the door. Always wants to leave at the most inopportune times. All right. So use update. Then what we'll want to do. Then what we'll want to do is actually delete the use update document and its test. And so what we're going to do is we're going to create use update.tsx. I don't even know if we need it. They might be able to be just TS files because there's actually not any JSX in them. So yeah, like use fauna client is a TS, use get is a TS. Okay, I need to fix that. They should all be the same. So rename TS. And then we're also going to add a new test file. So we'll do use update.test.ts. Give me 1 second here. I'm going to update my music selection. Well, you can't hear it, but I'm playing music for myself. I would stream it for y'all, but don't have the permissions. Okay. All right, so we did that. And then while we're here, let's actually rename these files that are using the TSX. They should just be TS because we're not rendering any JSX here. We're importing these hooks from React, but we're not actually importing React itself, which is what handles the rendering. Okay, that's all of them. Okay. So we deleted, yeah, because these were renamed. Get on all. Okay, cool. So we just pushed that up. And I'm in the habit of opening draft PRs immediately, just so you can more easily see the diff. So I got 5 or 8 files changed. This is what we have so far. So I'm going to take a break real quick. I need to grab some more water, maybe like a granola bar or something like that. So give me like 2 minutes here and I'll be right back. 1 second. And we're back. Now we're back. Cool. I just went down to. I said water, came back with bourbon, so, you know. Okay, so. Only got a little more time here. Gotta go make dinner. So let's just start laying out the template here. We're not gonna start on the test. And a lot of this we can just say, hey. So export default function use update. Just going to take a client. We'll define the type in a minute. Right now it's going to export or return an array. So we'll just say, hey, you're returning an array. And then we need to import FaunaDB from FaunaDB. So this is the FaunaDB, JavaScript driver. And this is what I'm using under the hood to actually handle the query logic. That's how I'm able to be writing, like, essentially what is FQL. If you can see, like, these are FQL queries, but I'm writing them using the driver. So I'm not having to handle any of that. I'm just essentially providing a wrapper in like a hooks wrapper for the functionality that the driver already has. Okay, so this client is a FaunaDB.client. And here we actually need to, let's import useState from React. And we're going to have two states. We're going to have our update data, set update data equals use state. And this is going to be a null to start. We're going to do the same thing, and we're going to do, this can actually just be called data, because in this context, it doesn't matter. Like in other places where we're using multiple hooks at once, we need to differentiate between the variables that we're destructuring from the array. But here we can just call them data status, because that's what they're going to be. So we have status. And so it's going to be data status. Okay. Okay, and then we also need to import use callback, which is a hook that basically allows you to assign a memoized function to a variable and then pass it around. And if you're not like super familiar with that, I have an article for you written by myself. I'll drop this in the chat in case anybody's wondering. Yeah, so let's get back to the code. And so we're going to do here const update function equals use callback. And it's going to be an anonymous function. And its dependency array is going to be empty so that it only executes once. Okay. And so this array is actually, and we're getting an error here from TS from TypeScript. It's saying like, hey, you have a function, a null, and a null being returned, but you're saying you're returning an empty array. So what we need to do is say, hey, we have a function, a null, and a null. So now it knows, yeah, okay, that's what I have. And then here, these should also define these values so that TypeScript is happy. And we can import these because we're going to use these. We also need query, but we can do that in a minute. So here for now, just to satisfy this, we're going to do return as data item. And this, instead of being the data, which is the second one, it's going to start as null, but once we load a document, and so this is essentially the data that comes back from the server when we do this operation. It's going to be a data item, and this is a custom type I have that represents all of the schemas that we are interacting with on the Fauna side. So refs, collections, databases, documents, functions, indexes. Okay, so that's going to be that. And then the status is actually not going to be null. It's actually going to be a string. It's going to start with fauna status dot not loaded. So we also need to change this value and say, hey, it's going to be a string that we're returning. And these right now we're not using. So now fauna schema, yeah, we'll use this later. But so this is essentially our hook here. It's basically we're returning a, oh yeah, sorry. So this is going to be null or a data item. So we're going to return a function, and either a null value or a data item value and a string. And that's essentially this signature here. And so I'm going to save that. And then I'm going to go into our example app, and I'm just going to import this. And you can sort of see like how this is going to work for users. So use update from use fauna. This is the name of the library. And what we're going to do is we're going to comment this all out. We're going to say const update function, update data, update status equals use update. And like all the other hooks, it just takes the client so that the hook knows how to talk to the database and which database it should be talking to. And then we're going to do this. Essentially just copy these things because we're going to want to do the same. We're going to want to log these out. So one. Cool. So now if we go back to our app, use update is not exported. That's right. I forgot to do that earlier on. So when we added this new hook, we should have come into this index file, which also I don't think needs to be TSX because there's no, what happens if I just rename it? But anyway, what we were missing is one, this does not exist anymore. And two, we have a new hook that we need to import. Use update. I can get rid of this now. And now we want to do this same deal. Export. Use update. Okay. And so let's just restart our. Cannot resolve. Oh, yeah. Okay. So I should not have changed that. It's listed as TSX. And that's in the rollup config, but I think it should just be TS. Because I don't. There's no. Could not resolve. I think we need to restart this. Yeah, there's no JSX in there, so it should work. Okay, now we can see that here in our console, we have the update function we're logging. It's a function, takes a schema and a name and a ref ID, which I think is right. Let's see. Did I log? Maybe I logged out the wrong thing here. Update function. It's interesting that it's logging it out like that because there is no, got an error there. It's logging out the delete function still. That's really strange. Why is it logging out the wrong thing? Maybe we should give this, so update. Let's look at our fauna cheat sheet here. This is going to take a ref. So it takes a ref and a param object that has these things. Okay. So I think it's going to be like, it's probably going to be a string. So first it's going to be a schema for sure. Then it's going to be a name. String. And then scope will be also a string, and that'll be the collection name for the documents, I think. No imported member, use update. Use update. Ah, yes, that's why it's reading the wrong one. Yeah, okay, so now it's starting to yell about these things, so we're going to have to console.log. Scope is more appropriate. And then log out the console, log out the client here. And then this one can go because we're not using it right now. Same with this. Should render now. Yeah, and you can see now we have the correct function. We're logging out the client, and we have like an instantiated hook here in our example app. And so I think this is a good place to pause, because to start getting into the internals of the hooks, that's going to require a bit more work. So let's commit this. Excuse me. Where I use update, git push, origin feature. Let's go look at our PR real quick. And so what we've done so far, added it to the README, imported it into our example app, and rendered the hook. We updated the extension of our index file because it doesn't need to be TSX. We exported use update from the package, and then we renamed some files to use the TS extension. We added an empty test file. We'll define that later. We stubbed out the use update hook here. And then we got rid of the old document-specific hooks that we're no longer going to use. So good amount of work. Took about an hour. So I'm going to sign off for now. But I might be back on later after dinner, or maybe later this week. So we'll see. Depends on how I'm feeling. But thanks for coming, and I'll see you later. Peace.